In this video, we're going to talk about what I've learned from the new outstanding game mode that is Pokemon Light, or what Hoyo calls it, Ethereum Wars. For a first pass, Hoyo has made an excellent event. There's a bit of mystery, a lot of characters present, the atmosphere, and a bit of story, which I pretty much fully skipped. I did not care about any of that. I was just there for the action portion of this event. I actually found this event to be incredibly interesting and not so difficult as to make you really have to swap teams for every battle to gain every advantage, but also not so easy that I could just mindlessly attack everything and win. The difficulty curve was super nice, and as part of this, I'm going to be showing the team I used on screen now for pretty much every single battle. I know I use them for every single final battle, so it's solid, tried, and tested. Returning to the action though, the way units scaled and enemies scaled and whatnot was pretty straightforward. Match your opponent's level and you'll pretty much win, assuming you play well and have a decent setup. If you're struggling, you can develop a specific counter team because, how like robots beat the monsters, monsters beat humans, humans beat robots, that kind of thing. I think an event like this does an excellent job at showcasing the strengths of bringing counters to the enemy you're fighting. Part of the fight takes place before combat begins, and that's a very valuable lesson that's taught in a gentle way during this event. This lesson extends beyond the event as well, into the base game, helping guide players towards better play. What a well thought out event, right? Not to say the event was perfect, there are some clear improvements that I think can be made, and possibly some subjective ideas that I think would make the event better, but that's not what we're here for. And if I can see them, Hoyo likely has a good idea of how to improve and iterate themselves. We're here to talk about what I've learned by playing through this event. I'm going to come right out and say it. There's no greater dopamine hit than watching your team make like 10 retaliations in a row. You hit them, they hit you back. That means you hit them, but then you hit them, so they hit. Oh my. Oh. Counter Strike or follow up teams, there is just some magic there. And I hope Hoyo takes note. That Silvermane Cannoneer was pumping with his very interesting skill. My first impressions of him were incredibly iffy. I thought he sucked, but I liked his little skill gimmick. It wasn't until I acquired the Silvermane Lieutenant that my eyes began to truly open. Turtling. Yes, the turtle team of heroes and legends, able to conquer all, weak to none. Not to mention, this team you get pretty early on, and then you get a bunch of expansion chips later, which make you just way stronger, and then you just deal with everything. It just wins, and it's like really cool, and it was like fun, and like the dopamine. Anyway, I think there is something really to say about the enjoyment of events when the players are put in charge. Allowing players to choose their own fates or change the way their teams operate solely based on what these expansion chips offer, on top of us being able to decide and select our teams, is something I didn't really see coming, but it was incredibly delightful. And it totally makes sense. Like when you're playing Pokemon, you get to like choose what skills they learn as they develop over time. And it's kind of the same idea with these expansion chips here. Part of me wishes that this was how planetary relics worked for our main characters, but that would make for an absolute balancing nightmare. So I understand why we necessarily don't see that. More of me wishes that we could get these cool and unique characters, and then have little dials and knobs we can turn and tune to develop a character specifically fitting our niches. I don't think we will ever see this retroactive development to characters in the game, but I think it's pretty interesting to think about, and what a swap up that would be. Oh my goodness. Hopefully Koyo can see this in time for Zenless Zone Zero, or ZZZ, the triple Z, so they're able to make some changes to the way we play, assuming they haven't already thought of this and it's already implemented in the game. I'm really looking forward to playing Zenless Zone Zero, and it's going to be definitely a highlight on my channel once we get to that point. So, keep an eye out for that. And if you're interested in ZZZ content, hey, I got you. All right. But back to our game, Honkai Star Rail. Will there be Abyss set? And likely 95% of players will just choose one mode of playing a specific character? Yeah, likely. But having fun, unique options that can fit a niche scenario that you get to use this one time and then have an awesome clip made out of it. Oh my goodness. What an absolute banger and a hype moment, especially when you're trying to accomplish this really weird, specific little challenge you've set for yourself. And there's just one little nuance of this underutilized character with this underutilized little dial or knob or talent or whatever you want to call it that just allows you to conquer this challenge. I think it's an incredibly easy way to develop more content that players can just subscribe to by themselves. What I'm trying to say is that in terms of development time, there's likely not a whole lot more than just allowing players to utilize these different modes. Putting more options in the player's hands just feels incredible, and based on all the feedback I'm seeing and how I'm experiencing the game myself, I think it's a pretty good idea. At the very least, it's fun. But we got a bit off track from where we began, but it's just so exciting. It's hard not to. So let's put a pin in it, rein it back, maybe talk about it another time, perhaps on my stream, twitch.tv/7thus. Besides personal enjoyment factors, what else have I learned as a result of this event? This game, above most others, has an excellent ability to reuse already established assets like maps and characters and enemies and develop a complete spin on them, which allows the players to develop a new appreciation of the content or just new content to consume in general. How wild is it that we're able to take the movesets of the enemies we normally beat down and we just use them as our little pet monsters, and we use those little pet monsters to fight the very same enemies that we're always defeating? It's an incredibly novel experience. Speaking of novel experiences, I think that's something that will keep this game rolling for a long, long time. The creativity here is absolutely fantastic, and I think it's just the very lifeblood of the game itself. Not to rehash the praise I just gave Hoyo, but yeah, just allowing players to experience the content in a new way is incredibly important for development, especially if they want to retain players with a constant supply of content. Content isn't easy to produce, and developers put 100 times more time into developing it for players to just consume it in a day. Kind of similar to these videos, actually. So if you're enjoying it, hey, leave a like, maybe a sub if you want to see more. And, leave a comment on what you'd like to see. I take the time to read all the comments, so just fire away. But that's about it for me, though. I just want to show some appreciation for what Hoyo's done here, and I hope what they continue to do. After the smash hit that was Swarm SU and this, I'm over the moon. It's awesome. It's amazing. I'm really enjoying the game. But yeah, that's all for me. I just wanted to talk about what we could see from future events and try to define what really brought me a lot of joy during this particular event. Hope everyone has a great time with the event and they're winning their 50/50s. So best of luck in your summons and I'll see you later. Also, like total sidebar, you can totally catch me live fairly often on twitch.tv/7thus. Same as my name here, same. It's just over there on Twitch. So just, drop by, give me a follow, link in the description down below. Thank you and have a good day.